Today we are going to be starting on this rear duckbill. I just right now got this all set up and at the perfect height. We are going to have to do some adjusting when we are done with the little rubber grommets and maybe get some adjustable ones because I did have to raise this up a little bit. I had to put something in between. Maybe we'll just weld a little piece of metal. I'm not exactly entirely sure yet, but it's pretty much flat here and now on both sides. And as you can see, my big drill holes here. What we're going to be doing is we're going to put a big piece of fiberglass on the car before we do anything, and I'm going to drill holes in the car so that it can actually kind of anchor itself into the car, and then from there we can start building out our wing. We are going to use the same exact plywood, the marine plywood that we got for the rear here. We're going to use that as our basis. We're going to put it at the angle that we want it at, and from there we're going to start glassing it in, and using this sheet that I just made, we're going to have to wait for that to dry. Obviously that's probably going to take a little bit, but then we'll use that and we'll use the pre-made sheets to get the exact shape that we want. From there we can start molding it into the fenders. So I know this thing looks really big right now, and I'm second guessing it a little bit, but as I continue to look at reference pictures and kind of go over it and imagine how it's gonna actually look, it seems like it's actually gonna be pretty small, and it's gonna be definitely smaller than the previous one that we had on here. It's kind of weird looking at in here, and especially on film it looks way bigger. It's really hard to tell too, just because the front of this face is not going to be like this. It's going to be brought out a little bit. However, the rear of it is going to be almost flat, exactly where the board is. It's just kind of hard to imagine it, but I think we're going to go ahead with this. The more I think about it, the more I kind of look at reference pictures. It looks right. Because it's in such early stages, I feel like I just really can't even imagine this thing on here. But we're going to continue with this. Worst case scenario, we'll just cut this down 2 inches or so. But I don't think we're going to end up doing this. I think this is going to end up being perfect. So now what we're going to do from here is we're going to use fiberglass across the bottom here, and we're going to glass this into the trunk. So we're going to glass all in between here. That's going to kind of keep it where we want it to be. And then from there, we'll use our glass sheet and glass everything together, and we'll glass on top of here before we glass that to that. And just a lot of fiberglass work, and I'm sure you'll see the process as we continue. While that's drying, I want to go over a couple of things. We are going to do a second layer on here. I want to go a little bit bigger than what we did here, so that way we have a little bit better footing on here. That way it keeps this even sturdier. And then from there, we're going to use fiberglass sheets, and it's going to be triangled, and it's going to make it that much sturdier. I did want to go over that we are going to be keeping this wood inside of here at the end, just like with the rear end. I probably could have done it where I just use this as a frame, and then I eventually pull it out. I could have covered it with the packing tape or whatever, and then glassed all around it and then pulled it out. It would have been a little bit more work, but I feel like the amount of work to the amount of gain you're getting out of it, I don't think it's really worth it. I probably could have, and I probably should have, but this is just the way I'm doing it. In addition to that, I know a lot of you guys are going to think that this looks absolutely massive, and it really isn't that huge. As you can see, when we step back and I stand up on this chair, you can see that the whole car kind of starts to flow a little bit more. And keep in mind, this is smaller than the one that we had last time, which the last one I feel like flowed pretty well with the size of everything else. It was probably just a little too big, and this is probably at least a couple inches smaller. So I drew this line down here at 6 inches, which is probably what I would bring it down to if I were to cut it, but as I just showed you that one reference picture, this looks just about correct, if not perfect. I continue to look at other pictures, and it's really tough because a lot of the ones that have the big silhouette spoiler have pretty big duckbills as well. So I think that we might as well just do this because everything else is kind of crazy and big on it, that I think that if we go with a little bit more moderate size, that it's not going to look right. So I think we're just going to continue with this. In worst case scenario, like I said at the beginning, we will cut it down, but I really think that this is probably going to look the best. I think once we're done with this, I think that we're going to be pretty happy with the height. So far, this wing is looking absolutely perfect. I was a little worried about the height at first. I'm sure some of you guys are gonna think it's a little tall, but I think once we section out the quarter parts and the trunk part, I think it'll kind of break up a little bit. I think it looks kind of just like one huge slab right now, and it kind of looks really big. And it is pretty big, I'm not denying that. Just like everything else, it's pretty ridiculous on this car, but that's just how they are. But I am super happy with the way everything is turning out. Obviously, we have the fiberglass bonding this piece of pre-made fiberglass to the wood, and then we're going to make it curve into here, and I'm going to have this whole part is going to be pretty much factory body panel. We're just going to make it mold into the trunk here. And then on the front side, I was only able to do a little bit because I used these little anchors. I have them curved in so it brings it out a little bit, because obviously if it's higher here where this little bulge is, it's going to want to bend this way, and that would make the sides go in, and then obviously we'd have to try and correct that with body filler, or we would have a reverse curve, which would just look weird. So we've got this kind of set up really carefully, exactly where we want it. Obviously, once this dries, then we can go at it, really fiberglass it. George was saying that it'd probably be a good idea to try and do some sort of triangle stuff from the plywood down to the car, but this is essentially a giant triangle that's going to attach it to the car anyway, so I think this is going to be more than okay. Just with the piece of plywood and the couple of layers of fiberglass, it was more than sturdy enough, and I'm sure with this kind of triangulating all of that and the amount of glass that we still are going to be doing, it's going to be more than sturdy. I'm not worried about this at all. And then we are going to be glassing up in the side, and that's just going to make everything that much stronger. But so far, this is turning out really good. I'm pretty happy with it. You guys can let me know what you think. You can let me know if you think it's too big or if it's too small. Obviously, if you look at the right reference pictures, you'll see that it's pretty much just about correct. Other ones are a little bit smaller, then there's ones that are absolutely huge. So it's kind of in between, but I think it's what I like the best. I think for the way the rear end and everything, I think this is the best. And it's really close to that one reference picture that I showed you. Anyways, guys, we are just about wrapping up here at the shop. If you guys are interested in helping out the channel and the progression of this car, go ahead and pick up yourself some merch. Link is in the description. You can get one like the Bosozoku style that I am wearing right now, or the Miata one if you're interested in that. Anyways, guys, that's gonna be it for today. Hope you enjoyed, and peace out.